What's up guys, so in today's video I wanted to show you guys my current favorite assault rifle build in Division 2. Now this video will be featuring two different builds and I'm going to go over both of them and how I use them in this video. Let's get started. So for the main weapon we'll be running for this build, it is the KINGBREAKER assault rifle. This drops from Countdown if you target from ARs. And it's also in the general loot pool, I believe. So the talent that this has is Perfect Flatline. It does 20% increased damage to pulsed enemies, which is why we're running it. And then for the specialization, running Technician, so you get the linked laser pointer. What this does is when you aim at an enemy, it pulses them. So for the mask, we're running the Catharsis. You guys already know how the Catharsis works. For the next build that I'm going to show you guys, it'll be quick. We will not be running the Catharsis, so it's a bit different, but hope you guys stick around. So for the chestplate, we're running the closer chestplate for the perfect spotter perk, 20% extra damage to pulse enemies. So this plus the KINGBREAKER gives us 40% extra damage to pulse enemies. You can change this and just run a different chestplate with normal spotter on it. I believe 15% then. But you can run a different brand set. So whatever you feel more comfortable with, you can use that. For the holster, pick a rose holster, crit damage, weapon damage, and then armor. Thing with Fox Spray knee pads, damage targets out of cover, armor, crit damage. Contractor's gloves, armor, damage to armor, crit damage. For the backpack, I'm running the Grupo Sombra backpack. Ideally, you would have a Fenris Screw backpack for the 10% assault rifle damage, and then crit damage, crit chance, and then armor. That is in a perfect world, I guess. Unfortunately, I don't have that today. And then for the talent, you can either run Wicked or Adrenaline Rush. I kind of swap this around. I also have a Matador backpack and an HG backpack, which has Adrenaline Rush on it, that I swap between. This isn't perfect, obviously, because this gives headshot damage. And ideally, you would get the 5% weapon damage here. With a Matador, I just don't have a very good one. So you can change this out for Adrenaline Rush on the backpack if you want to. It just depends on your play style. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. Obviously, Adrenaline Rush helps you get more armor and so forth. So feel free to swap that out if you want. This is just kind of how I run it typically in PvP. Moving on for the PvE side of this build. For the mask, I run a Fenris Group mask. This has headshot damage. Ideally, you would have crit chance and crit damage. Unfortunately, mine has headshot. And then I run armor there. And then for the backpack, you run the Memento. This gives weapon damage, armor, and skill tier always. Doesn't matter, whenever you get one, it'll always have that on. Then I have a crit damage mod. What this does is when you get a kill, the enemy drops a trophy. Once you pick up the trophy, you get this amount of percentage based on the core attributes that you have. So 5% weapon damage. Obviously, the Memento has a red attribute, blue, and a yellow attribute. So you will always get one of those, one for each. So here on all my other pieces, I have armor, as I just showed you guys. So I will get 60% armor on a kill, and then I'll get 5% weapon damage, 5% skill efficiency. But the big one is that bonus 60% armor that I'll be getting. For every trophy collected, gain an additional 1% weapon damage, 1% skill efficiency, and 0.1% armor regeneration for 300 seconds. This will always be active, guys, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm hoping that all of you guys who are watching this video gets at least one kill every 300 seconds in PvE. I'm sure you guys aren't having problems keeping that up. So that's basically how I run it in PvE. Also, this is a kind of a big part of the build. The Busy Little Bee gives you 200% extra weapon damage if you hit 10 different targets and then swap to your main gun. So we have perfect spotter on the chestplate, perfect flatline on the gun, 20 plus 20, that's 40% extra damage to pulsed enemies. Then you can stack this up to 200%, so that's 240% extra damage to pulsed enemies. If you run this in PvP, obviously you get your extra damage from the Memento, but this is kind of dependent on how many trophies you have and all that. So in PvP, if I'm running my Wicked backpack plus the Catharsis, I'm sitting at 40% extra damage from the pulse stuff, 200% extra damage from the Busy Little Bee if I hit 10 different enemies before going rogue in the dark zone or conflict, whatever. Conflict, it's a bit less practical, I would say, but you can still at least get one shot on an enemy with your Busy Little Bee before shooting them with the KINGBREAKER. That 20% extra damage might not be worth it. It just depends how your playstyle is. So you get your 200% damage there, 40% extra damage from the pulse stuff, 18% extra damage from Wicked, and then a max of 30% extra damage. I don't know if it goes to 30 and then breaks at 31 or breaks at 30, but 30% extra damage from Catharsis. So 20, 40, 58, and then you get another 30, so we're at 88% extra damage here. And then with the sidearm, you get 200% extra damage. So 288% total extra damage potential on this build. Kind of insane in my opinion. Obviously, you don't always have the busy little bee stacks to 10, but that is the max that you can push this to. And in PvP, it's quite common to, I don't know, I feel like most of the time I'm sitting at around 15 stacks on my Catharsis. So, you know, that is the maximum potential of the build. Obviously, most of the time you probably won't be there that high. But yeah, you can also, you don't even need to run this. You can run the Adrenaline Rush backpack, like I said, for PvP. But it's just insane. You get the 20% there, another 20% there. You're sitting at 40% already, plus another 30%. You're at 70% extra damage. And then you get your extra 18 there. So it's quite nice that you will have this 88% extra damage most of the time, I want to say. Well, I shouldn't say most of the time, depending on the Catharsis. I would say you get at least 15% on extra damage on average from that. And then when it breaks, you obviously get the Healing Cloud. For the abilities, it doesn't matter what you run for either of the builds. Obviously, the Kingbreaker will pulse everything that you aim at because you're running, or that you shoot at, I'm not exactly sure. The linked laser pointer, technician laser pointer that pulses targets at which it's aimed. Yeah, so you just aim at them and then they pulse. So you don't even need to run the pulse. I don't. I run a Stinger Hive with a decoy, or I'm running pulse with decoy in the DZ specifically. But outside of the DZ, you don't need a pulse. I just like to know where the other agents are. Here are the stats for the PvP side of the build, and then I'll swap real quick to show you guys the PvE version of it. Like I said, the backpack, you know, it changes depending on how you feel for the PvP, where you want to set it up, but there are the stats. You can also alternatively change the attributes and go for headshot plus like hazard protection or armor regen, because obviously the armor kit on technician is pretty bad, but then you have to hit headshots, and I don't like shooting or trying to get headshots with a Kingbreaker. It's not very accurate in my opinion. And my shade watch is pretty low level here, so that is the reason for some of my stats being a bit lower than usual. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe for any future Division 2 content. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take it easy. Peace.